What are we discussing on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast? Why the Torey Lovullo ejection was justified, and are we witnessing the breakout seasons for Pavin and Alek Thomas?
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas, multimedia journalist, and graphic designer. So please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there, you can see my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first order. On today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, we're talking about the D-backs squeaking by the Baltimore Orioles, the ejections, and all the bizarre behavior that we saw in today's game. We'll discuss, is this the breakout seasons for Pavin and Alek Thomas? Then we'll wrap up the pod by discussing if Brandon Pfaadt can stop giving up the long ball. So we got a whole bunch I want to talk to you guys about on today's podcast. But first, I want to say thank you for making Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms. So please continue to tell your friends. One of those platforms is YouTube. We have been going live on YouTube after the D-backs games. We are live right now. So if you're watching live on YouTube, please drop some comments in the YouTube section. We'll read them as the show goes on because we want this to be an interactive experience. And if you want to join in the future, follow me on Twitter at CareerThomas24 for my personal account. Look up Locked on Diamondbacks, both Twitter, Instagram, so you can always stay up to date when I go live. But now let's get into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. All right, let's talk about that bizarre game for the D-backs where they pulled out 4-3, because I want to start this conversation by talking about the ejections for Merrill Kelly and Torey Lovullo. I was at the game, and to be honest, I didn't know Merrill Kelly even was ejected until I got home, because all I remember is Torey Lovullo going over to that first base umpire and just ripping him. I thought I was going to take the phrase a little bit further there. I said, let me keep it PG. But for Torey Lovullo, I am so glad he went over to that first base ump and just tore into him, because whoever that guy was, I don't even know his name. I'm not even going to Google his name because he was absolutely horrendous. I don't think I've ever seen a guy do worse at his job or know less about what he's supposed to do, because aren't umpires supposed to know the rules? This guy looked like we picked him out the stands. Like it was his first time calling a Major League Baseball game, first time watching a Major League Baseball game, because he had no idea what was going on out there. And I'm so glad Torey Lovullo went up there and ripped into him, because it was so justified. Someone needed to yell at him because he was absolutely horrendous, because there was a string of terrible plays for that first base umpire. It started with the missed tag on Gabby. And of course, at the time, it benefited D-backs fans. But sitting in my section 132, lower level, I turned to my friend. I said, Gabby's out. I knew watching the game, he was tagged out from 300 feet away, 300 meters away. I don't even know how far I am technically, but I knew just watching it with my naked eye, Gabby Moreno was out. The umpire somehow, the guy tags Gabby on the foot right in front of the umpire, and he just completely misses it. Don't know how he does that. Then you miss the strike 3 call for Merrill Kelly. And I think if Merrill Kelly gets that strike 3, who knows how good of a game it is for Merrill Kelly? Does he finish the 7th inning? Does he at least go 6 2/3 and only 2 earned runs? He definitely hurt Merrill in that moment. And in turn, Merrill turned and said something under his breath and got himself ejected. Torey came out the dugout, had to defend his player, and had to just rip him into and rip into the umpire for also just a terrible call, not making that strike three. So I'm glad Torey Lovullo did that, because we know Torey Lovullo is not afraid to get fired up. If you actually look among like MLB ejections since he's taken over, I think Torey Lovullo is number one. So we are very much accustomed to Torey Lovullo going up there and getting fired up at the umpire, because after he got ejected, we saw the worst play of the night by the umps, because the not that much later, Shelby Miller has the bases loaded, 1 out, hits it, gives up a fly ball to Lourdes Gurriel. He throws it home, runner tags, but the issue is all the runners behind the guy on third started running and going to the next base, advancing before Lourdes Gurriel even caught the ball. And so everyone in the stadium, everyone in Chase Field was like, everyone took off before Lourdes Gurriel even caught it. How can you say this inning's still going on? It took a 20-minute review for the umpires to figure it out. Every fan in there was like, the run should count and the inning should be over, because everything that happened after was absolutely illegal. And somehow all the fans knew that, but none of the umpires. Absolute insanity by the first base umpire, and the whole crew tonight did not know the rules, tried to cost the D-backs a game, tried to give runs to the Baltimore Orioles, but thankfully we were able to pull it out. Merrill Kelly actually had himself a very good start, which was kind of surprising if you watch how it started, because I thought this was going to be another terrible start for Merrill, coming off a game where he just gave up 9 earned runs. And then the way he started this game, started out with a ground out, but then a walk, a single, a hit by a pitch, and then he gives up a single that scores 2. And then he finally gets the double play. But there's like 4 like a 4-batter sequence when you're like, this thing can go haywire in a minute and be another disaster start for Merrill Kelly. But instead, he buckled down. And until that 7th inning, he did not allow a base runner after the first. From innings 2 through 6, the only base runner he allowed was via the Eugenio Suarez era. And so Merrill Kelly was dominant in this one. We discussed on yesterday's podcast how the changeup has been ineffective for Merrill Kelly this season, and it's been his go-to pitch throughout his career. Well, it was effective tonight. He was doing damage against those Baltimore Orioles, keeping them off balance. And so I thought it was a great Merrill Kelly start. Also, great job by Corbin Carroll, Josh Naylor, so important to the offense. But one thing I want to discuss before we wrap up segment number 1 that is really frustrating me right now by this D-backs offense is all the bunting. I hate how often we're bunting, because we're not even bunting in advantageous situations. If it was no outs, man on second, 1-run game in the 6th inning, okay, you could justify that to me. But when you're telling me Alek Thomas, when you go back and look at that play where Gabby's thrown out, Alek Thomas starts that play trying to bunt, and then Gabby is thrown out. And so you would think once there's an out and a man on second, just let Alek Thomas, who's like batting 380 at that moment, just swing the bat. No, instead, Alek Thomas tries to lay down another bunt with an out already recorded. I don't understand. After Alek Thomas is Garrett Hampson, who had like 1 hit all year. So we're forcing 2 outs on the board to get a man on third just so Garrett Hampson can hit. I would much rather have Alek Thomas batting 390 hit with a man on second and 1 out than Garrett Hampson and a man on third and 2 outs. I don't understand. Geraldo Perdomo's having a great start to the season. Why are you trying to bunt with no outs and a man on first? Let's see Perdomo rip a double down the line and put some more runs on the board. His D-backs offense just way too safe, way too conservative at times, and I hate all the bunting. So please, I know we're a small ball team, but when you actually have quality players in your lineup, we don't need to small ball as much as we're doing. So I hate the bunting as often as we're doing it. Only if it's man on second, no outs, 1 run in like a middle inning, I'm okay. But all the other times, please stop giving the other team easy outs. Dalton Milanazi, I hope I said that right. Dalton Milanazi. We are getting on track with NBA officiating in the MLB. Dalton, I think we know how bad it is. That's why we need that ABS, automatic ball strike system, on the major league level as soon as possible. And Francisco C said, thanks for the post-game pod. Francisco, thank you for tuning in. We'll discuss if this is the breakout season for Pavin Smith and Alek Thomas in segment number 2. But hey, I first want to talk to you guys about my favorite new snack, Wonderful Pistachios, because if you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I love the no-shell variety. You could get salted, unsalted. They got like chili roasted flavors. Like, it's insane whether you like your pistachios hot, spicy, salty, or like absolutely nothing on it. Or it could be shelled or no shell. Like, whatever your preference is, get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Back here on the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, Porter Merrill says, I think Pavin Smith is starting to prove that his last season's small sample size could be legit. Porter, that's a good point because I want to discuss Pavin Smith and Alek Thomas and if this is the breakout season for both of those players because, of course, both of them starting the season hot. Pavin Smith actually had a huge ground rule double in this game, and I was upset at first when it happened because I thought it was going to be a double off the wall that scored a run. Once I saw it was a ground rule double with 2 outs, I was like, oh, we're actually not going to score any runs this inning. But thankfully, Josh Naylor came up and ripped a 2-run double to put the D-backs in front. D-backs offense right now is pretty much Corbin Carroll, Josh Naylor, and then either Pavin Smith or Alek Thomas because those two guys have been kind of godsends for this D-backs offense. When you look at Lourdes Gurriel and Eugenio struggling, we've needed other guys to step up, and both of those guys look far more improved. I don't know what I almost said there. Way more improved in terms of their approach at the plate. And I think overall their confidence at the plate. We've seen times Pavin Smith and Alek Thomas go up there, head down, strike out easily, look overmatched, not really know what they want to do, not really know what kind of pitch they want to hit, just kind of swing at anything. Maybe Pavin Smith has had better plate discipline throughout his career, but it's not like he's been a great offensive player. And we know the struggles Alek Thomas has had. But so far this season, the ball has been flying off the bat of both of these guys. And if you actually look at like the hard contact stats for like all players on the D-backs, like these two guys are right at the top of the leaderboard for D-backs players this season. You look at hard hit percentage, and Alek Thomas is at 41%, really good stuff. Pavin Smith, 58%. So over half the time, Pavin Smith is hitting a ball 95 miles per hour or harder. Alek Thomas, 41% of the time, he's doing the same thing. You look at exit velocity, Thomas, 93.5. Pavin Smith also around 93 miles per hour. Like, when you look at these two guys the last few years, one of the biggest issues that we've had with them is their lack of power, is that lack of slug. We're like, yes, Pavin Smith and Alek Thomas could maybe rack up a bunch of singles and some gap doubles, but in terms of over the fence power and like consistent slug, neither one of them really has it. The ball has never really flown off their bats, but this season, totally different story. You even look at line drive percentage. Both of these guys lead the team in line drive percentage. They're doing a great job at it. And so when talking about like the hard contact stats with these guys, like they're getting the barrel to the ball, which has not always been the case with either one of them. We know the documented issues with Alek Thomas. Pavin Smith, at least like in 2021, had like a season where he batted 270. Alek Thomas really has nothing close to that. Not really any track record of success at all. And so I think for both of these guys, there is a question of, from what we've seen this year, how real, how accurate is it? Of course, Pavin Smith had that 60-game sample size last year. Now you're seeing him play well in 2025. So you feel like it's probably a little bit more sustainable, a little bit more legitimate since we've already seen glimpses and flashes of this in 2024. For Alek Thomas, we probably feel like we need to see a larger sample size. We've seen Jake McCarthy, 2 of the last 3 years, be a really good, effective player for Arizona. Now he's 0 for whatever and hasn't recorded a hit. So things can turn quickly for these players. And so for Alek Thomas, we want to see if what he's done so far this year, if it's real or if it's just like a hot start to the season, right? When you look at innings 7 through 9, we know this D-backs offense has been really spectacular during that time. But one of the fun things is if you go by player splits, innings 7 through 9, the best player on this D-backs team during that stretch is actually Alek Thomas. He has been Mr. Clutch for Arizona late in games. 833 average and a 2024 OPS entering tonight's game in innings 7 through 9. Both of these guys have been absolutely clutch with runners in scoring position. Alek Thomas putting up superstar numbers. Meanwhile, Pavin Smith is putting up all-star numbers. And so hard contact, clutch stats, these guys are doing exactly what you want them to do. And if you're looking at like their batting profile, Alek Thomas is handling every sort of pitch. Fastballs, breaking balls, off-speed pitches. He's crushing everything. Pavin, he needs to do better with the breaking pitches. He's doing great on fastballs, but he's striking out almost 2/3 of the time on his breaking pitches. And so if I actually look at the sample size from both of these guys, yes, we need a larger sample size from both Pavin Smith and Alek Thomas. But so far, I think the underlying stats would actually tell you, even though we've seen less from him on a high level, the stats so far, I think, would tell you Alek Thomas seems to be a little bit more sustainable with what he's doing, considering the play discipline numbers are better than Pavin. Pavin's striking out over 40% of the time, absolutely K'ing like every time when it's a breaking pitch. Meanwhile, Alek Thomas handles everything a little bit better, a little bit more balanced. And I think the fact that he has speed and just more overall athleticism allows him to do more things when he's at the plate. And so I'm very curious to see how this season is going to go for both of these guys. Is Alek Thomas now the new center fielder of the future for the D-backs? Maybe not even new, because we've always wanted that for Alek Thomas, but the offense has been such a struggle the last few years. We've seen Jake McCarthy really come in and take the job over from him, but maybe now this is once again Alek Thomas's job to lose out there in center field. And then for Pavin Smith, he was the first round pick of the Mike Hazen era. Can he finally live up to his potential? Is he a 20, 30 home run guy, all-star first baseman? Probably not. But if he could be a guy that bats 290, bunch of doubles, just does his job with good plate discipline, draw walks, and just cuts down on that strikeout rate, there's at least a world where Pavin Smith can be a solid offensive contributor in his DH role. And so I do like what I'm seeing from Alek Thomas and Pavin Smith. I don't know how sustainable it is, but as long as they're hot, let's ride that hot hand, because we've got some cold guys in the lineup with Eugenio and Lourdes Gurriel. I would like to believe they have a chance of breaking out in game number 3 against Dean Kramer, and we'll discuss that in segment number 3. But first, I want to talk to you guys about Monarch Money, because ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. All right, back here on the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, and now let's discuss Brandon Pfaadt, and if he will stop giving up home runs, stop giving up the long ball, because that has been his biggest issue this season and probably the biggest issue throughout his career, because we all love Brandon Pfaadt. Coming up through the minor leagues, we know what his resume was. First, like 200 strikeout seasons in the minors in like 10 years, like a very talented and touted prospect for the D-backs. Was he on the level of a Steven Strasburg? No, but people thought he was like a very good number 3 with potential and upside to be a true frontline starter. And so far for Arizona, I think he's definitely shown flashes of being that mid-rotation guy with potential to be even better. But the issue is the home run. Brandon Pfaadt just gives up way too many long balls, and there's just so many starts where it's like he has a perfect 4 innings, and then that 5th or 6th inning, he just seems to always give up the home run, and it has been such a problem for him throughout his career, where if he can just fix that issue, he goes from a very good pitcher to a great pitcher. And if you look at his career numbers, innings 4 through 6 are worse than any other inning grouping, worse than innings 1 through 3, innings 7 through 9. He has a 5.94 ERA, innings 4 through 6, and he's given up more home runs in that 3-inning span than any other inning grouping. And so for whatever reason, those middle innings is where Brandon Pfaadt starts to struggle. That third time through the lineup is when he starts to struggle. And you look at his numbers this season, and he just needs to do more when it comes to his fastball, giving up a 583 slugging, his changeup, a 556 slugging, his curveball, a 900 slugging, his sweeper, a 500 slugging. Like, every pitch Brandon Pfaadt throws has been crushed this season. And one thing that's been a huge surprise, 0 strikeouts on his fastball, 0 strikeouts on his changeup. This was a guy who was a 2 fastball pitcher throwing a nasty 2-seamer, right? And right now he has no strikeouts on his fastball, a guy who is fastball first, fastball dominant, can't even record a strikeout. And I don't think he's been bad this season. It's not like we've seen a lot of bad Brandon Pfaadt in 2025. Again, a lot of it has been the home runs. You look at that start against the Nationals, he gave up 2 home runs in that first inning, 3 earned runs overall. But then after that, it looked like he was cruising until he gave up a home run in the 6th inning. His first start against the Chicago Cubs, he looked great until he did what? Give up a home run in the 6th inning. It's always the same story with Brandon Pfaadt, just an untimely, unfortunate home run, and it never feels like it's a bad pitch. Maybe his rookie season, but more over the last season and a half, 2025, 2024, I don't feel like he's making a lot of bad pitches when he gives up a home run. Yes, sometimes he does. Sometimes it's a sweeper or a curveball hanging, but I feel like he has fixed some of those issues. Sometimes he leaves it elevated and a opposing batter crushes it, and sometimes it's a good pitch and it still gets crushed. Brandon Pfaadt just needs to stop giving up the home run. When he can do that, he goes from a number 3, number 4 starter in Major League Baseball to a true number 2 and a guy that could be right behind Corbin Burnes for the next few seasons. Of course, we need Corbin Burnes to be better, but I still like Brandon Pfaadt. I still think that contract he's on is an absolute bargain. I think he's going to turn into one of the best pitchers in the sport. Maybe not like a Spencer Strider level, but the fact that this guy is going to be making barely double-digit money for the next 5 seasons, a guy that's going to be top 3 in your rotation, those guys are typically so expensive. So absolutely love Brandon Pfaadt on the deal he's on. I think he's going to be fine going forward. For the offense, going into the finale, great opportunity to finally bounce back and get something going, because when you look at Dean Kramer's numbers versus the Arizona Diamondbacks, this offense has teed off against Kramer in their career. 343 average, 1109 OPS for all D-backs hitters against Kramer. And if you want to look at some players more specifically, Josh Naylor, 4 for 7 in his career against Kramer with 3 ribbies. He's crushed against him. And also Lourdes Gurriel, someone that we've seen struggle mightily in 2025. 3 for 8, 3 extra base hits, 2 home runs, 6 ribbies against Kramer. We need Eugenio and Lourdes Gurriel to get going because both of those guys are kind of like black holes in the middle of the lineup right now. Gurriel after today's game, 152, 167, 326 slash line. Absolutely insane. He has, let me double check. I think he only has like a couple hits on the season. Gurriel has 7 hits on the year. And if you want to know how many walks he has, 1 walk. Gurriel's play appearances are terrible. They're either strikeouts or they're pop-ups. Like, it just feels like he never just rips the ball. It always feels like it's lazy contact for him, and I don't like that. Meanwhile, Eugenio, it feels like if he doesn't hit a home run, he does nothing at the plate. And so D-backs have to figure out what to do with those guys. Personally, I would move Gabriel Moreno up in the lineup. I would love him as either the number 3 hitter or the number 5 hitter for the D-backs with a guy like Ketel Marte out. Why not go Carroll, Moreno, Perdomo, or some combination with Josh Naylor as your number 4 hitter, and then maybe Grichuk or Pavin Smith as your number 5 hitter. And then I think I would like that lineup a lot better. Stack the best hitters at the top. Stop putting these 2 black holes back-to-back in your lineup where you're getting no production whatsoever. And Alek Thomas, I kind of like him in that Geraldo Perdomo role. I kind of like him batting ninth, coming through for the D-backs and being like that top of the order guy once again. And so hopefully this could be a game where the D-backs offense wakes up against a very vulnerable pitcher in Dean Kramer. And hopefully Brandon Pfaadt stops giving up the long ball, because if he does that, he will go from a mid-rotation guy to a frontline starter for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Now that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news, coverage, and insight. The D-backs play at like noon tomorrow or pretty early in the day. So I don't think I will be going live right after a D-backs game. Maybe I'll go live a little bit later in the day, maybe like a evening live stream. We'll see. I'll tweet it out if I do. So please stay up to date at CareerThomas24 for Twitter, or Locked On Diamondbacks both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle. And of course, stay safe, stay healthy. Doses.